His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON Svandracharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai. Shri Giri Govardhan ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai. Shri Ramnami Mahotsava ki jai. Go Premanande. All glories to their Sama devotees. All glories to their Sama devotees. All glories to their Sama devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gaur. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai. Shri Ram Navami Mahotsava ki jai. So devotees, how nice to be here with you all. I've not really been outside my room for getting on for a week because there was a COVID outbreak at the temple itself. So it's really nice to get out of devotees.
Swami Maharaj ki jai.
Madhu Mangal Prabhu ki
Jai.
And tomorrow's Ram Navami, just such a great day. So yeah, I was asked to talk about, well, I was told the qualities of Lord Ram. But then I heard you mention something about challenges of Lord Ram. Okay. Well, yeah. Lord Ram, of course, he's the Supreme Lord. And if there are any challenges, it's all just part of his pastimes, really. So what we'll do, we will read a verse or even two from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 10, the pastimes of the Supreme Lord Ramachandra. And we will read verses 54 and 55. They're really very nice. So first of all, though, please just repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Right. So Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 10, first of all, verse 54. Ekapatni vrata daro, rajarshi charita shuchi, swadharmam griha mediam, shikshayan swayam acharat. Translation: Lord Ramachandra took a vow to accept only one wife and have no connection with any other women. He was a saintly king, and everything in his character was good, untinged by qualities like anger. He taught good behavior for everyone, especially for householders, in terms of varnashram dharma. Thus he taught the general public by his personal activities. And I'll read the following verse 55 because it's describing Mother Sita, and of course it all connects together very nicely. Premnanuvricha shirena prashraya vanatasati biahriya chabhavagya Bhartu Sita Haran Mana. Mother Sita was very submissive, faithful, shy, and chaste, always understanding the attitude of her husband. Thus, by her character and her love and service, she completely attracted the mind of the Lord. Right. So I'm going to read the purport actually of the first verse we read here. So Srila Prabhupada's purport. Ekapatni Vrata, accepting only one wife, was the glorious example set by Lord Ramachandra. One should not accept more than one wife. In those days, of course, people did marry more than one wife. Even Lord Ramachandra's father accepted more wives than one. But Lord Ramachandra, as an ideal king, accepted only one wife, Mother Sita. When Mother Sita was kidnapped by Ravana and the Rakshasas, Lord Ramachandra, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, could have married hundreds and thousands of Sitas. But to teach us how faithful he was to his wife, he fought with Ravana and finally killed him. The Lord punished Ravana and rescued his wife to instruct men to have only one wife. Lord Ramachandra accepted only one wife and manifested sublime character, thus setting an example for householders. A householder should live according to the ideal of Lord Ramachandra, who showed how to be a perfect person. Being a householder or living with a wife and children is never condemned, provided one lives according to the regulative principles of Varnashram Dharma. Those who live in accordance with these principles, whether as householders, brahmacharis, or vanaprasthas, are all equally important. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestha Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastichate Shatane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai. Yes, devotees, so the qualities of Lord Ram and the different, how his pastimes unfolded. First thing I'll mention is that Lord Ramachandra, well actually Prabhupada points it out here in the purport, how he really set generally a wonderful example for human beings. He accepted one wife, as Prabhupada says, in those days, particularly for the Kshatriyas, the warrior class, the ruling class. It was not so unusual, it wasn't unusual at all for a warrior man, a Kshatriya man, like royalty, that sort of thing, to have more than one wife. Nowadays, of course, it's just the normal thing. But Lord Ram was so faithful as a husband to his one wife. So faithful, Prabhupada points it out here. He went to great lengths to retrieve her after she was captured, even though he could have, as God, he could have just manifested another Sita, or a few more Sitas, or 100 more, just literally like that, because he's God. These types of things for the Supreme Lord, it's nothing. It's really nothing. But he didn't do that. And so therefore he's known as, there's a particular term which is used, Maryada Purushottama. Krishna is known as Leela Purushottama. Purushottama means supreme person. Purusha means person, and Uttama means just the very best. So Krishna's Leela Purushottama, the supreme person, who's particularly outstanding when it comes to his pastimes. Krishna has the most amazing pastimes. He lifted Govardhan Hill. In those days, Govardhan Hill was probably as big as this whole hill, or bigger from the bottom, you know. But Krishna lifted it and held it on the little finger of his left hand for a week. In that way, he showed that he is Purushottama. He's the supreme person, because who can do that? One, I won't mention any names, but one more recent, he passed away some years ago, but a more recent person who was, you know, presented as, by some people, he was presented as being God. And he became little popular, not extremely, but little popular in those terms. One of his followers became, and someone who was quite close to him, became very attracted to Krishna consciousness, to Prabhupada and this ISKCON movement. And so this person was sort of caught between Prabhupada and this man who was being put forward as being supposedly God. And Srila Prabhupada told him that, you know, if this man is God, you must tell him that he must demonstrate it, he must prove it, and tell him he must lift Govardhan Hill. And even if he can't lift Govardhan Hill, at least if there's some sort of quite big table in the middle of his room, at least he must lift that. So this gentleman went back to the so-called incarnation and said, listen, if you're God, I want to see you lift Govardhan Hill. And there was some big table in the room, like bigger than this, but like really solid table. So lift Govardhan Hill. It's 23 kilometers around. You know, so it's a serious hill. And if you can't do that, at least lift this table with one hand. And the man, the incarnation, said, that's ridiculous. And then the gentleman who was in between him and Prabhupada, he understood, I must follow Prabhupada, not this man. Haribol. So Krishna is known as Leela Purushottama. He has these amazing leelas, pastimes, in which he does all sorts of superhuman things. in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna showed his universal form. He showed how he is pervading the whole universe. And this is just fantastic, completely superhuman, to put it mildly. So this is Krishna, Lila Purushottama. And then Lord Chaitanya, the most recent incarnation of Krishna, he's known as Prema Purushottama, the Supreme Person who is demonstrating and distributing prema, love for God. That's Lord Chaitanya, who appeared 500 and something years ago and was distributing Krishna consciousness all around India, and this ISKCON movement is carrying that mission on around the entire world. So Krishna Lila Purushottama, Lord Chaitanya Prema Purushottama, and Lord Ram is Maryada Purushottama. What does Maryada mean? Maryada refers to rules, the rules and regulations of humanity, like moral standards, doing what's right and not doing what's wrong, that sort of thing. Basically, in general, that's what Lord Ram was doing, setting that example. Prabhupada said here that, what does he say? A householder should live according to the ideal of Lord Ramachandra, who showed how to be a perfect person. Yes, so Lord Ram was extremely, like you could say, noble, upstanding character, very righteous. If you're familiar with the pastimes, then you would know that he was exiled on the request of his sort of stepmother, you could say. His father Dasarath was forced to exile Lord Ram, although he really didn't want to, but he was forced to do that. And it broke the heart of Dasarath, Lord Ram's father. It just broke his heart completely. And when Lakshman, the first brother, when Lakshman heard about this, that Lord Ram, who's meant to become the king shortly, Lord Ram is going to be exiled the day before he is installed as what they call Prince Regent, means that it's official. He's going to become the king. He's like the crown prince. So the day before that, he was told he was exiled, and Lakshman protested very strongly. And Lakshman said, "We're not going to do it. We're not going to follow this. We're just going to have Ram installed as the Prince Regent. And who cares what his stepmother says? We're just not going to bother." But Lord Ram, as Maryada Purushottama, the Supreme Person who sets a very good example, very righteous and following the rules. And one rule, of course, in that regard is you do what your father says. Yeah. Where's the young lady? Is she still here?
She's inside.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask her if she does what her father says all the time. But Lord Ram. So Lakshman more than protested, he just refused. But then when Dasara told Lord Ram that I'm afraid I've given my word that you'll be exiled. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. But Lord Ram, when he heard that, he said, sorry, why are you sorry? There's nothing to be sorry about. If that's your order, you're my father, you're ordering me like that. I'm happy to follow your order. I'm very happy. I would gladly enter fire if it was your order, my father's order. So it wasn't like, oh gosh, I really, if I have to, if you insist, or something like that. He was happy. So this is a very interesting, very important example. Not procrastinating and arguing and all that sort of thing. So this was Lord Ram, very honorable. So it said about Lord Ram, it said he had 3 ones. 3 ones. We read about one wife. One wife. For when there's any sort of decision to be made, he had one word. One word. And if there was an enemy who was attacking him, he had one arrow. These are the 3 ones of Lord Ram. Yeah. So, oh, there she is. Hare Krishna. We were just talking about how Lord Ram always did what his father told him. And I was going to ask you, do you always do what your father tells you?
What?
Do you always do what your father tells you? Yes. Kind of. I thought it might be something like that. When he says the right thing. All right, anyway. Yeah. So yes, one wife, no sort of, playing around or entertaining any other idea at all. And one word. I remember a few years ago, somehow or other I was with one devotee and there was something, he showed me something like a little report about one politician who I can't remember the name of. And this politician said, talking about some decision they're meant to make, said, well, on one hand, we should do this, but on the other hand, we should do something else. But on another hand, we could do another thing. And the devotee said, wow, how many hands does he have? Sometimes we call it flexi speak. That, say one thing, but then you twist it around. But that was not Lord Ram. That was not Lord Ram at all. So Lord Ram was so dedicated to Mother Sita because, well, she is his eternal consort, of course, and the relationship is transcendental. It's eternal, superhuman. But what an example. When she was kidnapped, Lord Ram could have, as Prabhupada says, he could have manifested, he could have married hundreds and thousands of Sitas. He could have just manifested like that another Sita, or hundreds, or even thousands. But he didn't do that. He took great trouble. He took great trouble to protect Sita and to save Sita. Hare Krishna. Welcome. So, yeah, he took such great trouble, and at the risk of, at great risk. And there was a great battle. I'm sure you're familiar enough with the story. Great battle, and actually thousands died, or maybe millions, but many, many died. But Lord Ram's idea was not to increase the size of his kingdom or to take all the whatever treasures that Ravana had or anything like that. It was not nothing of that sort of increase his empire. It was simply to rescue Sita. And to rescue Sita because she was his wife. And that was his duty, his responsibility. He had to do that. He had to look after his wife, protect his wife. And even at the risk of losing his own life, he had to look after her. So he did. And the point is made that in order to do that, in order to save Sita, Lord Ram, he is the Supreme Lord. He is omnipotent, all-powerful. He could have just, he has extendable arms. He could have just extended one arm out to Lanka, even though it's a long way away, but he could have done it, no problem at all, and just picked her out. Or even, for that matter, when Ravana came to kidnap her, even though he was just a little bit away, not very far, maybe a few hundred meters or something like that. But he's all-powerful, and he's also omniscient. He's all-knowing. So surely he could have been aware and just stopped it. But he didn't. He didn't do these things. And eventually, of course, he killed Ravana. But he could have killed Ravana immediately. Srila Prabhupada actually made the point that within our bodies, in the region of the heart, we have an on-off switch. You know what I mean, right? On. In South Africa, on means down and off means up. In other countries, it's the other way around. But anyway, so now now our switches are on. Our switches are on. But, after some time, whenever it's going to be, sooner or later it's going to come to every one of us, the switch is going to be switched off. And that's going to be that for this lifetime. So Ravana also, he had an on-off switch. And Lord Ram, because he is God, he is Krishna, he is the Supreme Lord. Along with just reaching out to anywhere and picking Sita out, he could have just also stretched his arm out and just switched off the switch of Ravana's heart. And that would have been the end of Ravana. Just like that. Just like that. Just nothing, practically. But he didn't do that. He could have easily done that. But he didn't do that. Rather, he took that trouble. He took that great trouble to find Ravana and cross the ocean and the great battle for some days, and it's all going on. And finally, he killed Ravana and rescued Sita. But the thing is that this was not the only way to do it, as we mentioned. It was sort of like the long way of doing it. The short way would have been just pick her out like that. It would have been done in a second. Turn off Ravana's heart in another second, and that would have been it. That would have been the end of the Ramayana, sort of, so to speak. But he didn't. He did it in that long and very difficult way. And of course the question is why? Why do it that way? Why not do it in a simpler way? And the answer to that question is that it's because he wanted to show what he's willing to do for his devotee. He wants to show that for his devotee, his beloved devotee, no challenge is too great. No difficulty is just so difficult that he would say, it's too difficult, I won't bother. No, nothing like that. For his devotee, there's no limit to what he'll do for his beloved devotee. So this is the character of Lord Ram. His reliability, trustworthiness, and like that. It's not just a matter of being nice and following rules and not breaking rules, but it's going on the basis of love, particularly in this regard, on the basis of love for his devotee. And that is the greatest characteristic of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, how he loves his devotees. So this was shown particularly in Lord Ram's relationship with Mother Sita. And just to illustrate that, I want to read to you just a little excerpt. This is the sort of like lamentation of Lord Ram when Lord Ram was when Sita was kidnapped. When Sita was kidnapped, how Lord Ram, how Lord Ram reacted, how he expressed himself when he understood that Sita had been kidnapped. Listen to this, it'll take a couple of minutes. But he expresses his feelings for Sita. It's pretty dramatic. You should actually fasten your seatbelts, so we don't want anyone to fall off their seat. There's a danger. So this is Lord Ram speaking. The austere Sita has been abducted, killed, or eaten. Her virtue did not protect her from being carried away into the wilderness. Since Sita has been devoured or abducted, even the demigods cannot do anything worse to me. Because I am mild-mannered, engaged in the welfare of the world, disciplined and compassionate, surely the demigods think that I am unmanly. Just see how my attainment of these virtues has turned them into faults. But now, shunning all those virtues, my power will manifest for the destruction of all living beings, including the Rakshasas, as the heat of the sun takes away the coolness of moonbeams. Neither yakshas, gandharvas, goblins, rakshasas, kinnaras, or men will be able to find any happiness. Watch as I fill the sky with missiles and arrows, O Lakshman. Now I will prevent the movement of the living beings in all three worlds. I shall bring the three worlds to ruination by stopping the movement of the planets, veiling the moon, destroying fire and wind, blocking the light of the sun, smashing mountain peaks, drying up all sources of water, destroying trees, bushes, and vines, and emptying the oceans. If the demigods in charge of this world do not return Sita to me, in a short time they will see my prowess, O Lakshman. Because of the continuous network of arrows released from my bowstring, no creatures will be able to fly through the sky. See how my steel arrows destroy the world, creating confusion and breaking the bonds of propriety, with all the beasts and birds devastated or fled away, shooting with full force arrows that cannot be counteracted by any living beings. I shall rid the world of goblins and rakshasas on account of Sita. Today, the demigods will see the strength of the arrows I shoot, impelled by anger, and which can strike at a great distance. When my anger flares up against the three worlds, there will no longer be any demigods, demons, goblins, or rakshasas. Torn to pieces by the flood of my arrows, the worlds of the demigods, demons, and yakshas, as well as of the rakshasas, will cease to exist. If the controlling demigods do not return Sita to me, regardless of whether she's been abducted or is dead, I shall this very day with my arrows dissolve all the boundaries of these worlds. If they do not return my beloved to me in her original condition, I shall destroy all the three worlds of moving and unmoving beings. After saying this, Ram's eyes became as red as copper, and he gripped his bow tightly. Then Ram, the conqueror of enemy strongholds, lifted his bow, took a ferocious blazing arrow like a poisonous snake, and fixed it on the bow. Manifesting anger like the universal fire at the end of the world, he said, as much as none of the living entities are capable of warding off old age, death, time, or destiny, it is entirely impossible to counteract me when I'm angry. If they do not immediately return my faultless Sita as she was previously, then I shall overturn this world with its demigods, Gandharvas, men, serpents, and mountains. Hare Krishna. Hare Rama. Well, you can see, wow, he was really in a mood, but on the basis of love for Sita, he was willing to do anything for his devotee, for his beloved Sita. Nothing was too difficult. So he, Lord Ram, very amazing personality. And of course he's very popular personality because of his morality, his righteousness, like this. I mentioned it, how he reacted when Dasarath told him, or actually Kaikeyi told him, you're going to be exiled. And, what do you think of that? You're going to be exiled. She's like mocking him. And Ram says, oh, how terrible. There's no need to say such things to me, my lady. On the king's order, I'm in fact prepared to jump into fire. Commanded by him who is my preceptor, father, king, and benefactor, I can drink strong poison or throw myself into the sea. Tell me, my lady, what the king's request is. I shall do it, I promise. Ram does not speak twice. So, Lord Ram, very exceptional, amazing form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As we said, setting an example, maintaining standards generally. Lord Krishna, of course, from time to time, he would do things which were not sort of, the normal things that people will do. Sometimes he just set his own standards. But Lord Ram, practically all the time, he would maintain the proper standards that the people in general should follow. And finally, well, not finally actually, but when they were exiled, they were moving to the east, to the southeast from Ayodhya, going down through Bihar, that sort of area. And they had to cross the Sarayu river. And there's really wonderful exchange there where they have to cross the river. So they have to find a boat. They found a boat with a boatman. And they got on the boat to be taken across the Sarayu River. And they're almost across to the other side. And Lord Ram said to Mother Sita that, well, we have to pay him, the boatman. What shall we give him? And Sita said, well, I've got this pearl necklace. We don't really need it because we're going to be living in the forest. So we don't need it. I'll give him this pearl necklace. Okay, so they offered the pearl necklace to the boatman. And the boatman said, no. I can't accept that from you. And Lord Ram said, well, we have to pay you. We have to pay you. And the boatman said, no, you don't. And the boatman said a very unusual thing. The boatman said, here in this place, all the boatmen, when another boatman comes on their boat to cross a river, one of the other boatmen, we don't charge each other. We don't charge the other boatmen when we take them on our boats. And the boatman said to Lord Ram, and you are a boatman. He told Lord Ram, you are a boatman, so I will not charge you. And Lord Ram said, I am not a boatman. I am a Kshatriya. I am the prince, actually. So I'm not a boatman, so I must pay you. Because Kshatriyas, warriors, could not accept charity. I cannot accept charity. You please take this pearl. No, I can't take it because you're a boatman. You're a boatman. I cannot take something from you. And Lord Ram said, what do you mean I'm a boatman? I'm not a boatman. And the boatman said, actually, you are a boatman. I'm a boatman. I just take people across this river. But you're a boatman. And you take people across to the other side of the ocean of birth and death. So you're a boatman. And I cannot accept any payment from you because you're a boatman. And the boatman said, however, I want to make a special arrangement with you that as I am not charging you for this ride on my boat, when the time comes for me to get on your boat, means at the time of death, when the time comes for me to get onto your boat, then you must not charge me. You must just take me to the other side of the ocean of birth and death, free of charge. And Lord Ram laughed and said, yes, that's all right. So Lord Ram, very special, wonderful personality. And tomorrow is Ram Navami, his appearance day. And to conclude, I'll just read one more verse from Srimad Bhagavatam and the short purport by Srila Prabhupada. It's Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th Canto, Chapter 10, verse 53. Nadi vyadi jaraglani Dukkha shoka bhayaklama, mrityus chanichatam nasid, Rame rajan yadhokshaje. Translation. When Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was the king of this world, all bodily and mental suffering, disease, old age, bereavement, lamentation, distress, fear, and fatigue were completely absent. There was even no death for those who did not want it. These were the conditions in what they called the Ram Rajya, the kingdom of Ram, when Ram was ruling. So Srila Prabhupada says, all these facilities existed because of Lord Ramachandra's presence as the king of the entire world. A similar situation could be introduced immediately, even in this age called Kali, the worst of all ages. It is said, Kali Kale, Nama Rupe, Krishna Avatar. Krishna descends in this Kali Yuga in the form of his holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If we chant offenselessly, Ram and Krishna are still present in this age. The kingdom of Ram was immensely popular and beneficial, and the spreading of this Hare Krishna movement can immediately introduce a similar situation, even in this Kali Yuga. And what situation? When Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was the king of this world, all bodily and mental suffering, disease, old age, bereavement, lamentation, distress, fear, and fatigue were completely absent. There was even no death for those who did not want it. Hare Krishna. Hare Rama. Shri Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman Ke. Shri Ram Nomi Mahotsava Ke.
They're going to read out the questions here.
Oh, I see.
So, Maharaj, the first question is, please would you share with us why you carry a danda?
Oh, it's to hit. If anyone gets uppity or argumentative, give them a what happened. Well, you know, sometimes it's said, this is it here, by the way, just here. Sometimes it's said it's a transcendental fishing rod. Of course, we don't do fishing of that sort, but what it is a symbol. Well, it's a form of Lord Vishnu, actually, but particularly, that's why, because it's a form of the Lord and therefore it's sacred, we don't just sort of stick it anywhere. We put it like here, it's on the altar. But it's composed of 4 bamboo rods. They represent the dedication of the sannyasi, the person in the renounced order, the dedication of body, mind, words, and soul in the service of the Lord. Dedication of these four things, parts of our being, in the service of the Supreme Lord. And it's, you could say, to remind us, we keep it with us all the time. Yeah.
The next question is, why do Hare Krishnas shave their heads but just keep a little sikha?
Yeah. Yes, well, you know, it's so that at the end, at the end of life, when it's our time to leave this world, Krishna can grab it very easily and take us away back to the spiritual world. Yeah, that's the idea. So, if it's a full head of hair, it may be too much. And if there's no hair at all, what's he going to catch hold of? So therefore we have a sikha, and I have a long one actually. So, hey, so Krishna can take us back to the spiritual world. But in another sense, it's, there's a number of ways of understanding it. It's situated, or meant to be situated, on the Brahmarandra. You know what is the Brahmarandra? It's the crown, the very crown of the head. And the life energy flows through that, through the Brahmarandra. So it's for channeling that energy. Therefore, when people do ceremonies, they're meant to have seekers for channeling the divine energy. And then another way of looking at it is it's just a distinguishing feature, because those who are called, spiritual people, but those who are called impersonalists, they don't believe that God or the absolute truth is a person. They normally just shave their heads completely, just nothing left. So the devotees, to distinguish themselves from those people, keep a sikha as a distinguishing mark. These are different perspectives on a sikha, what a sikha is. Yeah.
Just three more. Why do we not eat grains on Ekadashi, Maharaj? Hare Krishna.
Why do we not eat grains on Ekadashi? Yes, good question, important point. Because, there's an interesting story behind it, very important, that at the beginning of creation, when Lord Vishnu was making all the arrangements of how everything's going to work and who will do what, in terms of the management of the universe. So, at the beginning, then a person called the Papa Purusha. You know this term, pap? Punya, papa, and punya. Yeah, pap means sin, or in Sanskrit, papa. The Papa Purusha. We mentioned earlier, Purusha means person. The personality of sin approached Lord Vishnu and said, I'm ready to engage all the people in sinful activity. Just everyone, millions and billions and zillions of them. But I'm worried. I don't think I have enough facility to engage them in as much sinful activity as possible. So I would like you to give me more facility for engaging people in sinful activity. And Lord Vishnu said, all right then. On the Ekadasi days, you can live in grain. And therefore, anyone who eats grain on the Ekadasi days will be ingesting all sin, just whatever any type of sinful activity, from theft to violence to, you just name it. It's all there in grain on Ekadasi. So therefore, eating grain on Ekadasi is equivalent to performing all sinful activities. Yeah, therefore we don't take grain on Ekadasi. And Ekadasi means the 11th day of the moon, both waxing and waning, both as the moon is, increasing, coming up to full, and as it's waning, going down to when there's no moon. That's the idea.
Maharaj, please teach me the art of concentration during chanting as a new devotee.
Okay, yeah, concentration on chanting. It's not just the new devotees, actually. I mean, it's more for the new devotees, but it's for all devotees. There are different points when it comes to concentrating. One point is, and even first point, but at least one point, still, the early morning is the most sattvic time. The atmosphere is the most pure in the evening, so, it's not so easy. But in the morning, people usually should be refreshed. So to a place, if you have a temple room or something like that, in front of your altar with other devotees, because then there'll be the act on your own. But then you've got to create your own spiritual atmosphere. We heard the music in the bus, and it was the real taxi music. Boom, boom, boom. And in the next room, they're watching television, something like. Is early in the morning, before you've got to deal with different things, your daily routine. Try and get up nice and early, take a bath, and put on clean clothes. And, in the ways that I said, you can really focus. It makes it easier to focus on the chanting. Facilitates that.
The final question. How should we pray to or meditate on Lord Ramachandra leading up to his appearance day?
Right. The best way, you can read, like, from what we were reading, it's the 10th and 11th chapters of the 9th canto. It's sort of like a summary of Lord Ram's pastimes that you can do. But actually the best thing is to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, because Lord Ram is there. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yeah, that's the best way. Intelligent questions. Well done. Okay. So now we'll have Arti, yeah?
Yes, Maharaj.
So now we will have the Arti. So everyone can please stand up.
Namah